2021 is coming to an end. We've only got a couple weeks of this year left. I personally think it's quite important to every now and then look back at what I've been up to and what I've spent my time and energy on for the sake of self-reflection. I believe I'm probably like the majority of people and tend to always do this towards the end of the year. Even though years are just a human construct and a number we look at on our calendars, many people, me included, tend to find a comforting structure in them, and every new year feels like a fresh start or a chance. Thus, the end of the year feels like a period of closing off and self-reflecting. So to practice this with my photography, I browsed through my photographs from this year and created a little collection that represents my favorites of this year. The photos I chose are not my absolute favorites of this year because I wanted to keep a diversity in the months so that I include photos from as many months as possible. Otherwise, my favorite photos would all probably just be found in 2 or 3 good months. One other aspect of this collection is that I chose from only my digital photographs because a couple weeks ago I made a similar video about only my analog photographs, and so to keep things tidy I decided to split digital and analog. And so here is a little recap of this year and some of my favorite photos. So let's start with this photo here from January 2021, so pretty much 1 year ago. So I was just going through my January photos and came across this shoot which I filmed, if you remember, or if you were on this channel at that time. I did a behind the scenes video where I got this shot, and as you can see it was in the middle of winter in January here in Austria. It is typical to get some snow and it had just snowed a couple of days, and so I wanted to use this opportunity and drive out to somewhere on the countryside where there's usually more snow than here in town, and this is where I came to. I saw this photo and thought, wow, this is beautiful. I haven't quite paid enough attention to this photo yet. I haven't appreciated it enough yet. And so I thought it's the perfect opportunity now to appreciate it more by putting it into this video and just shining another light onto it almost a year later. So what I like here is, the first thing I like a lot is the distance. I rarely go so far away from the camera. At least here it looks far away. As you can see, I am tiny in this picture. And I feel like I rarely do that in my self-portraits. I don't know why I decided to go so far away here, but it's beautiful. I like the distance created and it just makes everything look so big around me because I'm so tiny in the photo. And something I also appreciate a lot here is the foggy mood. It wasn't really foggy, as you can see at the left. The houses, they are still quite clearly visible. I don't exactly know what was going on the right and why it is so foggy, but I suppose it was just a wide, vast field, and so there isn't really anything to see back there anyway. And because it was snowing on that day and the weather was all grey anyway, it sort of becomes this foggy matte colour here, which I think looks beautiful. But I do appreciate that we have some detail on the left side, which I think, if I remember correctly, back when I shot this photo and analysed it for the first time, I didn't really like that left side, because if I remember my thoughts back then about this photo correctly, I think I wanted to make this look somewhat post-apocalyptical, and that house back there of course looks very civilized and not so fitting of a post-apocalyptic scene, but now I actually do appreciate it because it gives us some context of where we are in this photo. Then here are 2 photos from, I think, January, maybe February, but we had a week or so when we got a lot of snow, and here in town we usually don't get much snow, and if we get some snow it melts by the next 2 days or so. But occasionally there's one week where just the snow goes a little crazy and we get quite a lot of snow even in town, and as you can see here, this was such a day or such a night. I think we had 3 or 4 days and nights of snowing, and therefore a lot of snow accumulated all around town, and of course I felt compelled to document this. And also I just think snow is so beautiful for photography. It's like a natural filter that is put onto everything, just like fog is, and you know how much I like to shoot in the fog. And so I went out in this night, so these 2 photos are from the same night, and yeah, just documented some stuff. I think the left one has a beautiful mood. I love how the street lamp gives this sort of key light in the middle and everything else sort of fades into the dark, but you do still see the details. It's a beautiful picture just of the snowy night, and it was snowing so hard that you can like really clearly see all the snowflakes flying through the air, which I find really cool. And the right photo sort of has a mysterious feeling, I find, which is what I appreciate about this photo. So what attracted me to this scene was that it seemed sort of quiet and unlively, but at the same time, something was happening, because as you can see, there's that light coming out of the garage. So that implies that something is going on in there, but at the same time, the whole scene seems almost dead. So I found this quite interesting because of the contrasting feelings in this case, and that's why I still like it actually. And I think the light is also quite interesting. I don't exactly know what is going on here. Maybe there was a car coming from the left, therefore there's this strong key light, because it doesn't look much like a street lamp, but maybe it was. I'm not sure anymore. Then that's enough snow already, that's it with the snowy season. These two photos might be from February, but might already be from March as well. I'm not sure again, I just know this was at the end of winter, beginning of spring. It was one of the first sunrise shoots I think I went on in this year. And I remember quite clearly that it was really cold, but everything looked quite warm actually because of the beautiful warm sunlight. So I went out with the GX80 back then with a pretty casual small setup and just walked around a place that I know quite well but haven't photographed much yet, and found a few things that felt worth photographing. And as you can see, the two photos I chose are both sort of similar in the way that I tried to just picture one certain subject in a more or less minimalistic way. Like the right one is very minimalistic, whereas the left one is lesser minimalistic. But what I adore in the left photo is just that warm light coming from the left into the frosty mirror. I just think it really gives off a mood, and when I look at this photo, I feel what I felt when I was shooting. So it's again complicated for me to know if you can actually feel something when you look at this photo. But for me, it represents this feeling of like a spring euphoria. For those of you who like spring a lot because it's like the awakening after winter, you know what I mean, I think, if I say spring euphoria. And this photo sort of represents that feeling for me. And on the other hand, the right photo is also from that same morning, but doesn't represent that feeling at all for me because I abstracted it a bit and edited it to be quite pink, as you can see. And in this case, I just really love this aesthetic. I think I just did something to make it pink and thought, oh wait, actually this looks really cool. And so I went with it, and I think it's more of this graphical type of photo. It's not at all realistic, it's more abstract and could even just be a drawing or a painting of some sort. And that's something I really appreciate about it actually. Then we're jumping forward in time quite a bit because this I think was in May or in June. I think late May maybe. And in the meantime, between that last shoot and May, I did a lot of analog photography, but also I had my film shoot. And so in those months, it was a bit of a mess. I didn't really shoot so much. And if I shot something, I was quite into shooting film at that time. I mean, I'm still into shooting film, but here is where I started to go out with my digital cameras again a bit more often. And this was on one of the warmer rainy days. It had become quite warm by now in this time of the year. And so it was warm enough for me to go out in the rain without freezing to death. And I had come to this lake on this rainy day, and this photo is quite different from all the other photos I got. If you saw the video, maybe you remember that this, of course, did not look like this, and I did this in the editing process in Lightroom. And I was just trying to calibrate the colors and went a bit too far and thought, actually looks quite cool. I thought the pink leaves, or the reddish pink leaves, suit the red boat quite nicely. And so I thought, why not do two versions, one quite realistic version and then this sort of wild version. And the realistic version, yeah, turned out okay. And this one stuck with me. It's very surreal, which is something I really like about it. So yeah, I still like this a lot. I still understand why I made this edit back then and still feel it. And still, yeah, like it a lot. Then, this photo is from the same day, the same shoot. As said, I was at this lake and I got another one of those typical self-portraits I often like to do. This photo also stuck with me. It was one that I liked a lot and I still like it. So that's the thing. I went through the photos from, this is now almost half a year ago, and I thought, I still like it. So that's a very good sign. This photo might actually age well. I like the foggy atmosphere that is created here. It's not really foggy, but it's just a little hazy. And again, the distance that I got here is amazing. And I remember that actually I did have quite a lot of distance. I put the tripod on like a little hill with the camera and then ran off into the distance quite far. At least in my memory it was quite far, but it definitely looks quite far in the photo, which again, I really like. I think it looks really cool. Then let's move on to this photo. This is just another shoot in summer, and this is another one of those photos that I wouldn't really count to my favorites of photographs that I've ever taken. But again, I was just going through the months of photos that I've gotten and thought, oh, this actually quite nicely represents one of the photos that I liked more of this month. Something I like here is the abstraction. I mean, it's not really that abstract, it's just like a forest, but I felt like it's full of shapes. All these trees are like lines that are coming down, and then we've got this one line that is going diagonal, which was just the sunlight. And I feel like this photo is sort of messy in the sense that we've only got these bushes, but there's so much order put back into it thanks to all of these shapes. And it creates this, I don't know, sort of tidy photo again. It's messy, but then it becomes tidy when you look at it a bit longer. At least that's how it works for me. I just see a lot of shapes in here, which I think is what makes this photo interesting to me personally. Then this next photo is from really in the middle of the summer, when here in Austria at least it's warm enough to just go out without a jacket. I just put the camera in the middle of the road, as I often like to do, and ran in front of it. And this photo actually isn't that special, I think. It's just, again, one of those personal things that make it interesting for me, because this is a neighborhood that I feel quite connected to. I don't exactly know why. Intuitively, I would say I feel connected to this place because it's not far from where my parents live, but at the same time, I've never really spent so much time there, so therefore I'm not quite sure why I feel, oh, okay, real moment right now. I think probably because this is really close to my school, to my primary school where I went as a kid from age 6 to 10. That's probably why I feel so connected to it. Still, I didn't really spend so much time here, so it's still a bit strange, but for some reason I felt quite connected to this place, and therefore this photo speaks to me. Again, that's the big question now. Does it speak to you like it does for me? So next we're moving on to the trip to Italy. I feel like I've talked way too much about this trip already on this channel, but probably just because I edit the videos and spend so much time with it, whereas you only see me about once a week. So I hope I'm not annoying you with this content yet from Italy, but there are just so many photos. I took so many photos there that there's just so much to show. And these two photos I've probably shown you before, but here again I just went through the photos and just picked a few that I really liked, and these two really speak to me, because they just represent this first town that we were at very nicely, because mostly tourists come to this place, and the people who own these houses and apartments want to make the place look really pretty, and they have definitely succeeded in doing that. We've got the left photo, which that sign, that road sign, somehow works as a subject, but at the same time I actually appreciate it for the whole picture, just for all the details that we've got, all the plants, just making this place look really inviting in a way. And the same on the right side, it's just this entrance to probably a house or something that was here. This is not where we stayed, but I walked past this place when I was walking to the beach and thought it looked so cute with the flowers almost arching over the gate, which I thought was just so beautiful. This was a little sunrise shoot I went on. I dragged myself out of bed early morning and went on a little walk, and just wanted to capture more of the streets and the details of the place we were at. And this is one of my favorite shots from that morning. I just really liked how the composition worked together. We've got the lines at the bottom and the road sign and the moped. Those are like the three elements that tie this photo all together for me, because they all look very nicely placed, in my opinion at least. This photo feels very tidy, even though it's got so many different things going on. And that's, I think, what I really liked about it when I first got it, and luckily I still do, so maybe this photo will also age well and I will still like it in a couple of years, we'll see. Then here's another photo from Italy. This was just the patio or something from a house that I was passing, and I just thought, oh wow, there's so much detail here. I'll just quickly snap a photo while no one's looking, and I think this came out amazing. I love how on the right side we've got things that are sort of keeping things in frame. So we've got these, what are those? Not cactuses, but other plants that fill this corner on the right bottom side, and just make the composition feel like it's drawing you to the table and to the chair. But the cool thing here is that you can see quite far into the back, and you can see all these details such as the pipes on the right side, which are also just again a signal of where we are and what kind of people live here. That's the kind of thing that I really enjoyed shooting in Italy, because Italy just is full of those kind of details. And so on the next page, I've got 2 more of those photos. Again, it's just Italy, I guess. I think quite a lot of you are Italians, at least from my Italy videos. I got quite a few comments from Italians, and I think you can probably agree that especially that right photo really represents Italy. It's at least a scene that I find very typical for Italy, at least what I was looking at. Then 2 more photos from Italy. These 2 are 2 of my absolute favorite photos from the trip. These were done in the same morning, and I even did a video on them, so maybe you know these already. I talked a lot about that left photo already, so I'll just keep it short this time, but here I just thought the composition worked out perfectly. There's just everything aligns perfect in my personal opinion, just for my taste. That's completely subjective, of course, but for me personally, in this photo, everything works perfectly. Therefore, I knew that this is definitely going to make it into this video. And on the right side, I just loved this scene full of plants. This front area of a house just full of plants, and we've got that tree coming from above, sort of making a subframe, not really, but still framing the photo. And then we've got that random moped in the middle, which acts as a subject, I suppose. I don't know, I just really love these 2 photos. Then let's move on to September. This photo here I've actually never shown on this channel, even though it's existed since September, and I actually even shot a behind the scenes on this day. I went out for a morning shoot, out for sunrise, and I even shot a whole behind the scenes, but I just haven't edited it yet, because after that I was on other shoots and then just felt more like editing those, and so this one I've sort of procrastinated on since a couple months now. So maybe one day you'll get to see this video, but so far I haven't shown it to you yet. But I thought I'd include this photo in this collection because I think this photo came out so cool. So what was happening here is that I was on a field and it was not very misty, but quite misty. Like there was just a little bit of mist left that was just being destroyed by the sunrise. But I thought if I look at the sun, suddenly the whole mist just glows. Obviously it does because of all the backlights. And so I thought, why not try to get a photo when I'm walking into that sun, as if I'd be walking into the light of heaven or something. And this is what I got, and I think it looks epic. I don't really know if it really looks like I'm walking into heaven of some sort, but it definitely looks dramatic and I like it just for that. The misty atmosphere, of course, I appreciate a lot. I also like how the colors and the color contrast is working in this photo with the warmer orangey top and middle, whereas the bottom is quite green. And the subject matter itself with the long shadow of me coming straight down to the camera and then my head not even being visible because it's just being blown away by the sun. I think it looks epic. Alright, spoiler alert, the next 2 photos, the last 2 photos of this video are photos from a shoot that I'll be showing you next week, the week after, sometime in the next couple of weeks. Yeah, I guess it's sort of a spoiler, but I don't know if anybody actually cares. It feels like towards the end of the year, I just got a few shots that I thought, oh yes, this is a great end of the year, so that I can happily say, okay, I got some really good shots this year as well. And there's these 2 here. So the left photo is on a big field, and I placed the camera on the field, and as you can see, there's this road going through the field. It's just a tiny road that goes across the field for people to walk over, and a lot of bikers like to use it as well. And so I was walking here during this misty night and decided to get out my torch to create some color contrast to the orange lights. And this is it, and I think it looks beautiful. It's mysterious, but also somewhat epic, and I think it's great. I just really like it, so I wanted to include it. I can't really say much about it. I need to think about it a bit more and analyze it a bit more, but I think I'll do that in the actual video when I show these photos. But I just really like it. There's just one thing I'm not quite sure about, and that is the aspect ratio, because we've got so much negative space at the top and the bottom, which is just basically just black. And then the last photo of this video, the photo to the right, which I just got a couple minutes after the photo on the left, I thought this could be a great setup for a photo that I personally think really works thanks to the lighting. The question is, what is the subject? There isn't really a clear subject, not a person or a thing that is actually here, but I think the subject here is just the scene itself and how the light and the mist interact. At least that is what I really appreciate this photo for, so I really like the light reflecting on the ground. I like how we can actually see where the light is going thanks to the mist, and maybe if you look carefully you can see that there's this blue light coming from behind the building. That was actually me. I stood back there and just illuminated that area with my torch, and my torch has this very actually white light, but in the midst of all these tungsten lights, of course, when I adjust the white balance accordingly, that light becomes very blue, whereas the orange tungsten lights might become a bit more neutral. And so that's how this photo was made, and I just really like it. I think it's so atmospheric. And here too, I've got a lot of negative space, but in this case it actually works very well. It works as a sort of vignette, I suppose, and just pulls you into the middle of the scene and you begin to wonder what is about to happen here or what is going on here. Or maybe you think it's just a peaceful scene in the night. I don't know how you feel this photo. I'm not even sure how I actually feel this photo, but to me it's mostly mysterious and but very filmic as well. Anyway, that's it. That was the last photo of this video. These were sort of my favorite photos of 2021. So I hope you enjoyed this little recap of the year 2021, and I'll see you again next week in the next video. Until then, goodbye.